Hi, I'm Vanessa from Pro REA Staffing, and I'm so excited to share this interview with you. I was recently invited to the Goodfellow Coaching Millionaire Team Leadership Summit, and I was asked to interview my friend and colleague, Ryan McCarty. Now, Ryan is a recruiter for the agency, and he has a long track record of helping agents build teams. And he and I can go on forever about team building strategy and how to help agents grow successful teams. So it was really exciting to interview him for this event. If you aspire to build your own $1 million team, then this is definitely an interview you'll want to check out. Okay, let's go to the video. So Ken called me about a week ago and said, can you do a second slot? Can you interview Ryan McCarty? And I was like, yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Ryan and I have been working together to help his clients build out their teams for 5 years now?
Probably
something
5
like
years.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's coaching teams to get them to join the brokerage that he works for, and a lot of them need help hiring admins, and so we collaborate. And we've had a chance to talk a couple of times now about this whole team building and recruiting, the strategies that we need to employ. And we could just go on forever. So Ken, somebody needs to time us and cut us off. So just give us a 5-minute warning. But Ryan, can we just start by just giving everyone a background about what you do and the kind of recruiting that you focus on?
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having me here, Ken and everyone else. That little exercise was fun. You won't catch me dancing, but we'll put something together. So real estate, I got in about 2004. I started on a team as an assistant, actually. I was hired to be an assistant, and that lasted about a week. Until I moved out of the paper assistant side of my job and into showing properties. And it just really took off for me. I started with a little small mom and pop brokerage on a team that was there, loved it, and got recruited to a company called Keller Williams. And I was with them for many years and followed their systems and models. And in fact, that's how we met. Team building. Ran a very large team at one point that kind of covered the whole state of California. When I closed the 200 plus transactions, it was all throughout the state of California. And it was in a time, the REO market, right? And everyone kind of had their territories, and I was able to kind of broker it out through the entire state of California. And luckily, with the coaching through Keller Williams and team building, I was able to accomplish that throughout the entire state. My career has transitioned away from selling and away from having my own team into, years ago I got into management with Keller Williams, and then I was recruited to a company called Paragon, which was a local San Francisco-based luxury boutique company. I did a couple years of recruiting with them, and kind of the niche that I built for myself in this industry was helping agents build out their team. And I remember at a time in 2010, I went through a divorce and I was living in Lancaster. Those of you that are from Southern California, that's about an hour and a half away from here, maybe an hour actually away from here. And my wife at the time and my 3 little kids moved in the middle of my divorce, in the middle of the height of my career, 6 hours away to Sacramento. And I'm the kind of dad that I go in the room in the middle of the night, make sure my kids are breathing, right? And make sure that they're good, and are they still in bed? And I'm just a very attentive father. So having my children 6 hours away from me was not gonna work. But it was also not gonna work for me to let my team go. And luckily, thank God, I had learned enough on leverage and behavioral assessing and hiring to replace myself and move 6 hours away and visit my business rather than visit my children. And during that process, over that year of kind of getting settled in again, before I took my first role as a manager for Keller Williams, I became very passionate about team building and helping others be able to leverage themselves out of their businesses. And because it meant so much for me to be able to keep my team and keep my business and go see my babies, it was just something that really hit home for me. And I wanted agents, to be able to have a quality life and to be able to not be stuck in one space. If something happened, they could be leveraged to the point where they could go visit their family or move with their family like I did. And so over the years, I've developed this skill set and this passion for helping people, whether it's hiring assistants or buyer's agents, showing assistants, listing specialists, whatever it is. And thank God I met Vanessa, because what I'm not good at is following a process or a system or a model or interviewing. I'm not very patient. Who's really patient in the room? Probably not many of you, right? And Vanessa had the system and she had the process, and this is definitely a plug for Vanessa right now. But it was such a great tool for me, because when I'd have these conversations with agents that I would recruit or be coaching with Paragon or Keller Williams and now with the agency, I was able to have a professional help me build their team, right? And help me staff their team. So now I work for the agency. I'm based out of Beverly Hills, covering San Francisco right now. My focus is I'm the Director of Agent Growth and Expansion. So I'm doing the same thing for the agency now, helping the agents build out their teams, helping them find talent, hire talent, keep talent. And so we're complete buddies here, and I couldn't do this without her, and I've had the success that I've had. So that is a definite plug for what you do.
Well, thank you. I didn't pay him for that.
You did not.
So let's just start by talking about what is a team. Ken touched on this a little bit this morning, but this is something that comes up for us and our clients all the time. So what are we talking about when we're talking about building a team?
You know, in the beginning of building a team, back in 2004, 5, and 6, I came from a retail management background, and where I had a team, right? I was the manager of different store locations, and I knew what it was like to build teams and to hire people. And when I got in real estate, you know, like most realtors, there's not really someone teaching you how to run a business, right? So luckily I had a little bit of that experience, but I learned a lot from listening to others and following those that have gone before me. But for me, a team, I've hired many people that as I was building a team, they weren't really a fit, right? They weren't really a match, or they didn't belong, maybe a better word. And for me, a team is about a team of people that belong together, that it just works, that it's cohesive and it just goes. Recently, I was listening to Brene Brown, and I'm sure you guys have heard of her, and she was talking about the difference between belonging and fitting in. And that really resonated for me, and I didn't have that analogy before, but I look back on helping others build teams, and I look back on my team, and I hired a lot of people that I tried to fit in, right? Or that they tried to fit in to what I was doing. And I think we have to really, and we'll talk about this some more, I think we really have to find those that we belong with, right? We have common goals, common values. The biggest thing for me is the why. Why are we doing this? Why do we go to work every day? What are we funding? What are we building? You know, real estate really should fund our perfect life. What is that? What does that mean for us? And I think having that commonality, I think that creates a team. It's just like any other marriage or partnership. If you're a true team, you're working towards the same things.
Great, so let's talk about how having a set of core values impacts the way you recruit and the way you talk about the opportunity that you're presenting to, let's say, sales agents that you're trying to bring onto your team.
Yeah, I think that when you first know, a lot of times when I'm helping teams kind of start to form, whether it's two agents that have worked independently and they've been thinking about a partnership, or they're thinking about hiring a buyer's agent or an assistant, I like to slow down to speed up. And I like to, let's play with the end in mind. What are you creating? What does it look like? What is it that we're building here? And I think having that set of core values really helps kind of limit the amount of pain, right? I've hired so many people on my team when I first started that I thought, wow, they're a lot like me, they're gonna be great, they're so driven, they're ambitious, I love this stuff, I'm gonna throw them on the team. And that was the depth of our conversation, was I just thought they were cool, I liked them, that this is gonna be fun, let's just do this. And there would be a lot of pain along the way, because I would find out after the fact what they were looking for was very different than what it was that I needed, or that space that I was looking to fill, or what role I would want them to play in the team. So I think having those core values first for yourself and what you're building, you can be able to speak to them when you're interviewing. I think a lot of times we interview people to put on our team, and it's not very deep. You know, it's very much we have a license, tell me what you do, what's your background, what's your book, like, why do you want to get in real estate? But do we have those deep conversations? We really, I tell people when I'm helping them recruit, you gotta remember this is kind of like, you're like dating, right? Go out on a few dates. You're not marrying that person on the first time. Don't throw them on the team the first time. Have more conversations and really make sure that you align, because when you're trying to take a human being and take that square peg and force it into a round, there's a lot of pain there. And maybe it works for a little bit, but it's gonna pop back out, and then you take the square peg and you start shaving it down. Meanwhile, that's a human being, right? And if they're not a fit for you, right? If they don't belong there, it can be very painful for both of you, or very frustrating, or limiting, or you're spending your time on trying to change who they are, rather embrace their strengths and play to them.
Well, and I think we can both think of teams that are very clear about their core values and what they stand for and what their mission is. And what we find as recruiters is the more clear our clients are on those things, the easier it is for us to attract people who want to be on that team and join that person in their mission. And I can have 5 clients, right? And this has happened in your San Francisco office. 5 clients in the same office, basically with the same job description, and every single one will be attracted to and will attract a different person.
Yeah.
And so the clients who are frankly just kind of vanilla, that are just, I'm a real estate agent, I sell homes, and that's it, they have a very hard time attracting talented people. And so that work that you do up front, and you spend time with your clients on this to really get clear about their why and their core values, that's the base of everything. But let's talk a little bit more about some more of the practical elements. What are some of the foundational elements that need to be in place before you start to build a larger team? What are some of those foundational things that people tend to skip because it's fun to build a big team, and then that comes back to bite them later?
Anything from behavioral assessing them, I think roles, I think we have to understand our own strengths. I think we have to be very clear on whether we want to call them weaknesses or what we're not great at, or however we want to label that. I think we have to understand what it is that ignites us. Why did we get into business in the first place? What are we excited about doing? Oftentimes, the things that we're putting off or avoiding, or that we're doing at 2 a.m., right? Or the things that we probably should be leveraging, right? Those are the things that are not the things that we're naturally drawn to. And I think it's really important to, whether you have just a one-person, shop at this point, when you're playing with end in mind, I think you have to figure out, what is it that I want to get rid of? Who should be doing this role? I think you should be consulting with experts. I think you should be talking to Vanessa or Sarah or Ken or whoever it is, and really figuring out what it is that are my strengths, and what am I not so great at? And let's not spend so much time trying to fix that or make that better, and staff people around us that are really great at doing what we're not, right? And so I think that's a foundational piece, just really knowing who you are.
Perfect. And let's talk about the actual recruiting and attracting of talented salespeople onto your team. When you look at teams who do this well, where are they finding people? How are they opening up that conversation? And then let's talk about some of the coaching questions and the discovery process that they go through to bring that person onto the team.
Yeah, for me, I think, for years I've been a recruiter, right? With Keller Williams, my job was mainly to recruit. With Paragon, it was to recruit. And years ago, a couple years ago actually, someone said to me, they complimented on how persistent I was at following up. And I was kind of bragging to my coach at the time about how this person said that they wanted to be like me because I'm so persistent. And he said to me, that's great, and consider a persistent prospector versus a consistent connector. And that really kind of cracked my brain open. He was like, I think what you're doing is you're connecting when you're out there meeting with these people, and you're recruiting, and you're connecting them to things that will better assist or support them. I think we're doing the same thing in our team, right? We should be, right? We should be building that culture that attracts, right? Think about maybe the reason why you joined the brokerage that you're at now. It might be different than what keeps you. Why do you stay there, right? There's a culture, or there's an identity that each brokerage or each team has. And I think we have to really evaluate that. Is that something that is strong enough that will attract someone? Because I don't know that we have to go out there and actively beat the pavement and recruit and recruit and recruit. If we are inwardly re-recruiting our people and we are helping close the gap on their dreams and what they're doing, aren't they going to be happy enough and proud enough to just kind of talk about it or be excited or be successful? And success leaves clues. People will show up. People will want to work with us if we've built that culture, right? And I think that we're often focused on, and I think this is the hard part about my role in companies that I've been with where I'm a recruiter. I think people want to know before you're out there recruiting and finding other people that they're taken care of first. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of brokerages make, just to be honest. I think that we're focused on the next group of however many people we'll hire this year and not focused about the ones that chose to follow us in the first place. And for me, it's about who is with me now. Are they hitting their goals? Are they happy? Are they spending time with their children? Are they traveling? Are they on, are they productive and coachable, or do I need to coach them out? And for me, it's about creating something that's solid and passionate enough that it will attract the right talent to you. If your vibration that you're sending out, your energy that's sending out is one of productivity and having fun, you'll likely attract that, right? I don't think that we need to spend so much time outwardly looking. I think we need to take care of what we have, and that those people and that energy goes before us, right? And we have that. The companies you joined today, the ones that you're with, you were attracted to them for a reason. I think we have to create that in our teams.
I love that. So let's talk about the discovery process. So somebody comes to you and says, I want to be part of your team. How do you find out if they are a good, a good match or a good fit?
Something that probably most of you do not love, and that is, I think we have to be patient. I think we have to have quite a few conversations, and when we've had a few conversations, we have to have a few more. Someone years ago said to me, when you have one candidate and you follow the hiring process, whatever your process is, whether it includes Vanessa or interviews or background checks or whatever that process is, when you have one candidate, you follow the process to prove that one right. When you have multiple candidates, you follow the process to prove the right one. And I think you have to have a process, right? I think a lot of times we're so busy, right? Or we're on to the next thing, or on vacation or work or listing or whatever it is that we have. And we're also not very trained or skilled or taught how to be great at interviewing. And so we skip steps. That's what realtors are probably great at. We skip steps, we jump over them. And this is a really important piece that I think that causes a lot of pain in what we do, and causes a lot of people over the years I met them where they had an assistant before and they'll never do it again. Or they had a buyer's agent before and they'll never do that again. And when I begin to dig deeper, they just kind of threw someone over their shoulder and hoped that they stuck, and they didn't stick, and they didn't work as hard as they thought they would, or they didn't really want the success as much as they thought they would. And I think we have to slow down. I think we have to have a mutual expectations conversation. I think we need to be asking questions and then asking for an example, right? So many of us, we have very different filters. I can say something and what it means to Christian is different than what it means to me. I think we need to be asking for clarification and examples.
So let's go through, what are some of the questions you ask when you're going through the discovery process with a potential hire?
I think anything, let's just talk about accountability. That word alone, right, means so many. It's either a bad word to some people love it, some people love it and they don't know why, they want to be held accountable, what does that mean? And an example of just that word alone, I think we have to ask, talk to me about accountability. How do you like to be held accountable? Now give me an example of a time that someone was maybe holding you accountable that you didn't like, or when did you like it? Or how should I hold you accountable? Or if something's not working, how do I bring it up to you? If we're not on the same page, how do we get on the same page? I think we have to spend more time being very curious about what makes someone tick and how to connect their head and their heart, right? So asking great questions about things that are important to you. I think you also have to take past, if you've had past maybe failures or mishires, right? It's always, hindsight, right? It's always easier after the fact. But those things that you hire, or those people you hired in the past that didn't work, build questions around that. Right? If you get, and this is an example, like when I'm helping an agent hire an assistant and they go through Vanessa and her team, when we get, one of the final steps that we get is the reference check, right? We don't just read through that. We read through that, and I highlight the things that stand out to them that they love, and I ask them to build questions around that for the candidate. Why do you love that, agent? Now let's ask the candidate, what did this person mean when they said that you're really great at organizing, or you're really great at initiative? How did you take initiative? Show me how you took initiative. If we're questioning whether or not someone is maybe driven enough, let's build questions around their drive. Let's look for an example of that, right? I think that we need to slow down and spend more time and ask those questions, right?
What are some of the red flags you look out for during the hiring process?
You know, it's funny, red flags. Makes me think of this picture I saw the other day. It was about dating, and it was like this bouquet of red flags. And it's like, I do, right? And I think sometimes we take the red flags, and it was like a bouquet of red flags. I do, it was so cute, right? Like, and I think that's what we do when we're hiring. I think we sometimes see a yellow flag or a red flag, and we don't lean in on it. And I think we should lean in on it, and we should build more questions about it. If something makes us scratch our head or take a pause, or I think we should dig deeper. What does that mean? Give me an example. Tell me more about that. Seek clarity around those things, because oftentimes we'll either go, well, I can probably get over that, or I'll move that around you, or you don't really want to work every day, Monday through Friday, so maybe we'll do this. We have to stop doing that. There are other candidates out there. We have to find the one that belongs with us. So I think that red flags are when they show up that we go, yeah, that's not really everything that I would love, but this is the only person I'm talking to right now, so I think I can get over it. Well, in 6 months, that same thing is still there. The reason that relationship fails was probably from the same red flag that showed up in the beginning that we just stepped over, or maybe we're using it as a blindfold, right?
I think one of the most interesting red flags that we see is lack of consistency in how somebody shows up. If you interview somebody enough times before you hire them, some people don't show up the same way on every day. It's kind of weird. But if that happens in your interview process and you liked them on 3 out of the 4 times, but one time they were just off, they will be off sometimes in your office, and there's nothing you can do to fix that. And that's a painful one. The other one is attention to detail or writing skills. I think if that's important to you, you can't fix it. By the time they're grown-ups, if they can't write, right? But I'm more interested in salespeople. When you're looking at salespeople and they really want to be part of a team, what are some of the things that sometimes seem off that end up coming back to by the agent who hired them?
Well, you know, this is the thing with, if I was to think of behavioral assessing, right? If we were to behavioral assess someone, give them the DISC assessment, what that doesn't tell us is their work ethic, their integrity, you know, how loyal, honest they'll be. So I think that when we feel these red flags, whatever it is, I think that, you know, if we were, a salesperson was wanting to join the team, and let's just say they had sold real estate for a couple years and they've done well, or they had not, I think we can go backwards and ask them, you know, we can play the success to exclude conversation, right? Talk to me about your past life. When did you have the most success at X, and what was it, and how did you get there, right? I think that salespeople, we are really good at faking it till you make it, and I think that we have to understand that other people are good at that too, right? And we have to investigate that. We have to look for the success, and we have to connect that. So I think it all circles back to asking really great questions, and that gut feeling that you have, investigate it, right? But when you're interviewing salespeople, I think you have to ask for past successes, right? Tell me about the last time, what is it, something in the last 5 years or in your career that you've been so proud of that you've accomplished, and how did you get there? What did that look like? How did you hit that goal? How did you hold yourself accountable? How did someone else hold you accountable, right? So I think looking in their past is a really great way to kind of investigate that.
There's this really interesting pattern that you can see when you go through somebody's history and find out how they change from job to job. You look for how often they were pulled forward versus pushed out. And if you listen to those patterns, it's really interesting, because people who are talented, they're seeking challenge, they're moving forward, their boss changed jobs and they brought them with them, you know. Other people, they were laid off, it didn't work out, I didn't like my boss, I didn't like my coworkers, oh, you know, this happened, that happened. You know, things happen in people's lives, so it's not usually just a clean trajectory of being pulled forward, but you can hear those patterns in the way people talk about how they got where they are today. And that is one of the best clues that I use, as, when I'm interviewing people. I'm sure you hear that too.
I think that's another great example when you're looking at that, right, and why someone jumps around. And I think that sometimes we're afraid to ask the questions that make us uncomfortable, right? So when someone says it didn't work out, or I moved on, or this wasn't the best fit for me, are we checking the box and moving on to the next, career on the resume? And are we slowing down and saying, well, tell me about that. What could have been differently? How would that have done? You took the job, obviously not to quit the job. So how would it have been a better fit for you? What would have been different? How would that have looked? What would you have changed? How did you try to change it, right? And in that story of what they give you, I think they're going to give you a lot of information how they're going to work with you. How much of it's going to be a fit or a match or not.
Right, so if someone just decides, oh, well, it wasn't a good fit and I moved on, and I asked, did you discuss that with your boss? Did you try to fix it? What solutions did you bring to the table? And they didn't.
Right.
Well, as soon as things get a little sideways at the next job, they're going to do that again. They're not going to give their boss an opportunity to make those adjustments if that's what needs to happen.
Right, you have to look for those patterns.
For sure. So I want to go back to, back to the retention idea and how you need to build your team to attract people. The last time we spoke, you had this great line. You said, your superpower is your influence. I love that. I want you to talk about that a little bit, what you mean by that, because I want to lead that into a conversation about leadership versus management.
Yeah, and we've heard John Maxwell say this before, right? I mean, leadership is its influence. And I don't think we all realize how much influence that we have, right? Whether that's influence on our children, or influence on the people around us, or friends, or people that we work with. And I think that what we have to remember, especially when we're building a real estate team, right? We're having people quit their career to come into real estate where there's no guaranteed paycheck, likely, and they're kind of looking to us, and they're trusting us to help them fill in that gap. And I think that we have to remember as leaders, we're gap doctors, right? Here's where you're at now, brand new licensee, or $1 million in close, or whatever that is, and here's where you want to go. We have to have the ability to lead them. And we have to remember that that started with the very simple fact that they asked us. That means we're an influencer. And for me, the superpower, or the S on our chest, if you will, is our influence. And I don't think we realize that. I don't think we're aware of that enough. And I think if we really looked at, wow, they're kind of watching my every move, right? They're looking at how I answer the phone. They're looking at what I say. They're looking at how I treat people. They're looking at how I treat my staff, and the phone rings and I'm treating the client a totally different way than how I treated my staff, right? And I think we have to understand that that is such a superpower. These are human beings that are coming to us saying, I want to work with you. I want to learn from you. Show me, when I grow up, I want to be like you, right? And oftentimes when you get that close to a person, they're a little bit different than what you thought they were. But what got you close to them was the fact that they were influential, right? And so I think as leaders, and every single one of us in the room are, I think we have to be very aware of that. Our influence is so powerful, and we have to be purposeful with that.
Perfect. I know we're almost out of time, but I just had one more thing I wanted to talk about. And this is the relationship between the administrative team and the sales team. As a recruiter, I hear about this all the time. The admin loves the lead agent. They're great. Lead agent brings in this new buyer's agent who is super demanding, unreasonable, and now the admin isn't sure, who their master is and what they're supposed to be doing. How do you head off those kinds of conflicts that can really tear a team apart and really, frankly, I think are completely unnecessary?
Well, I think it starts in the beginning. I think it starts before either one gets hired, right? Talking about how you'll work together, talking about admin, as I'm hiring you, there's other buyer's agents, let's talk about that relationship and how that looks. Buyer's agent, as you get hired, showing whatever it is, I think there has to be that level of conversation that happens somewhat in depth about how we treat one another, right? What the roles are, what does that look like? And of course, when it shows up, you nip it in the bud and you take care of it, but I think that you have to set that, but again, it goes back to your influence. And if speed of the leader, speed of the pack, right? Why are they treating, have I set that example, right? And, but I think the conversation in the beginning about how you work together, right? And how you treat someone, I think that needs to happen in the beginning.
And setting clear boundaries.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for checking out the interview. I hope you found it helpful and inspiring and useful. For even more resources, check out the show notes below. And keep in mind, you can always schedule a free consultation with me to discuss your hiring strategy. Thanks. Talk to you later.